Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this special Treat Me Right social media live from WomenHeart. Today, we are joined by an incredible WomenHeart champion, Lorianne Woods, who brings both her own powerful personal journey and a passion for empowering others to our conversation today. Just a little bit of background, Lorianne discovered a serious heart condition almost too late, and since then, she's dedicated herself to writing, speaking, and advocating for women's heart health. And she serves as a WomenHeart champion in Arkansas and is an American Heart Association ambassador as well, and also an award-winning author, which is quite impressive. And Lorianne is here today to talk with us a little bit more about how we can take action, whether that be in our communities, our healthcare experiences, or our personal journeys, to really just ensure that women are informed, supported, and above all, treated right. And so, Lori, could you briefly introduce yourself and share a little bit about your heart journey with us?
Sure, Sarah. Thanks for having me. I am an empty nest mom of 3, and more importantly, grandma to 2. I live, as you said, in Bentonville, Arkansas, and this all started about 10 years ago now. I had a sudden end-stage heart failure diagnosis after I went to the doctor with what I thought was the flu. And it really broadsided me because I have no family history. I had no risk factors. I had low blood pressure, low cholesterol, all good numbers. But it was so severe that I was flown to Cleveland Clinic and became my doctor's most critical patient there for a year and a half. She told me recently that when she first treated me, my heart was the largest heart she'd ever seen. And my ejection fraction was just 6% at that time. I've been through a couple of different heart devices, the CRTD devices, and on a lot of medications. But right now, just kind of holding my own.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. It sounds like definitely a out of nowhere experience and quite emotional as well. And
Yeah.
so, what really inspired you to get involved with the Treat Me Right campaign?
Well, I think for many women, they struggle to be heard in heart disease, but my case is a little bit different, but I knew there had to be others like me where I struggled to listen and then I struggled to speak. And what I mean by that is I wasn't listening to my own body. I wasn't listening to the people that loved me. And I wasn't sharing everything I was experiencing fully and completely with my family doctor.
And why do you think that was? Why do you think you had to kind of go through that realization of speaking up more for yourself and being more in tune with your body? Why do you think you had that initial hesitation?
Well, it all came about just because I was very, very ill when I finally went to the doctor with what I thought was the flu. It was a holiday week, and I just put it off. I put off going to the doctor. But that day that I went to the doctor, I remember sitting on the floor of my closet, and it was all I could do to put my socks on. I was struggling to put my socks on. And at that moment, I knew something was seriously wrong. And I did go to my family doctor, and he took a chest x-ray and found my heart failure. But I knew at that moment that something was seriously wrong with me. And at that moment, I decided to start paying attention to these little symptoms that I'd kind of had for, I don't know, maybe 10 years before my diagnosis, but I just dismissed them.
Wow. And how did you learn to advocate for yourself once you realized that you really needed to speak up and you'd gotten those test results from your doctor? How was that learning portion of your heart journey?
Yeah. So I think I knew I needed to listen to my body because all the symptoms that I was feeling and that I had experienced in the past were things that my friends were talking about as being part of menopause or midlife changes or just being out of shape. They were things like shortness of breath, inability to exercise, difficulty with inclines, and just having an unusual amount of fatigue. And so I was just dismissing them. But when I was there on the floor of my closet trying to put my socks on, and I realized something was seriously happening, I knew after I got my diagnosis that I had to start advocating for myself. I think a lot of times as moms, we're really good at advocating for our children, but we're not so good at advocating for ourselves. And so that's when it kind of hit me that if I'm going to get the care I need and I'm going to survive this, I need to start speaking up.
Wow. And once you did start to receive care and treatment following that initial diagnosis, what does evidence-based care mean for you in that scenario, or moving forward as well? What does that mean to you as a patient?
Yeah, I think there's really, I'm learning there's kind of three legs to the stool. There's research and new developments in medicine, but that doesn't do you any good unless your healthcare provider, which is another leg of the stool, knows about them and implements them. But they can't do anything unless the third leg of the stool kicks in, where that's us as the patient. We have to share fully and completely with our doctors so they know to employ that evidence-based research and care, because so much is happening in the field of heart medicine right now, and devices and new medications, that we have to really communicate so that they can take advantage of those new innovations. And I've heard someone say at one time that the only self-exam for heart disease is awareness.
Hmm.
So if we're not aware of our own bodies and how they're changing, then we can't help our healthcare provider treat us.
That's such an excellent metaphor, and it really speaks to the team decision-making aspects of care as well. That is, the stool metaphor is definitely one that I will use in the future. That's great. Um, and I guess shifting our conversation a little bit more towards Women Heart, what encouraged you to take the leap to become a Women Heart champion?
Well, I actually first heard about WomenHeart from my doctor at the Cleveland Clinic, and I picked up a magazine there that was featuring WomenHeart, and it described how to become involved. And so I reached out as soon as I got home from that appointment and started the process. And it was important to me because I have two daughters, and I wanted to help them have a better outcome and a better experience than I had. Even though none of us have any lifestyle risk factors for heart disease, I wanted to help protect them as well.
That's very inspiring. And do you feel like they're prepared now that you've become a Women Heart champion and started to be really working in the community education space? Do you feel like you've been able to help your family and community members?
I do. I think especially my daughters are much more aware to be looking for small things that are changing in your health and share those, because like I said, none of us have any lifestyle risk factors. And if they can be aware of anything that changes, then they're going to be one leg ahead of heart disease if it does come into their picture.
That's really inspiring to hear. And how do you feel that Women Heart has supported you along your journey?
Well, I think there's two things. Number one, information. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't have anyone in my family that had any heart problems, and this was a whole new field for me, a whole new journey. And so the information that was there was so helpful to me. But also the other part is there's hope. You get to connect with other women who have also already been down this road, and they have stories of survival and thriving, and it gives you hope that you can do the same.
That's really excellent. And will you remind our audience how many years you've been a Women Heart champion, or what class you joined with?
I joined in 2017, so it'll be 8 years this fall.
Wow. 2017 does not sound like it was 8 years ago.
It shouldn't
That's
be.
a long time. Oh, man. Yeah, and so I guess shifting back to a little bit more of your journey and learning how to speak up for yourself, what tips would you offer to women who are struggling to speak up for themselves, and to ask those questions in their medical appointments?
This is hard because I think all of us, those medical appointments go so fast. The doctor rushes in and then they rush out, and we try to just hit the high points. And we don't want to sound weak, or we don't want to sound like a complainer. But my tip is to be that person. Be that person that asks those questions. Be that person that brings up things that seem insignificant. And if you can be that person, then you can be there for your family when they need you.
And is it rude or intrusive or complaining to ask your providers those questions?
I don't think so. I think if it's something that is changing with you, they need to know about it. and they can note it in your chart. And then no matter who you see the next time, it'll be there and you won't have to remember to reshare it.
That's a great piece of advice. I think noting in the chart, it provides kind of a paper trail as well, right, for your care. And if you're ever switching providers or anything happens in your life, that is a great tip.
Yes.
And specifically within the Treat Me Right campaign, we also heavily encourage women to ask the right questions when they're having their medical appointments. And for you, what are some of those key questions that you now ask your providers or you would recommend that others ask?
Mm-hmm. I think one of my key questions is I ask, is this whatever I'm experiencing that's different? Is this normal or expected? And then I also like to follow that up with, can I message you if this gets worse? Or can I message you if I notice anything new? And that opens up that idea of, we have electronic ways sometimes to contact our doctor or a nurse now that's even less bothersome, it seems like, to get a hold of someone. And that way, when something seems off, again, to your point, it's in the paper trail because it's noted in your concerns, and someone else might be on top of it when it gets worse or when it changes again.
Definitely. It's changed our healthcare entirely, I feel, to instead of have to wait another 3 or 6 months for when your appointment opens up, that you have that direct line of communication.
Yes.
And how has being a Women Heart champion helped you feel more empowered in your own healthcare experiences?
I think it's made me feel more knowledgeable, but maybe on the flip side of that, it's helped me realize that no one knows everything. And we shouldn't have to feel like we know everything. There's so much to be aware of, like the warning signs for diabetes or breast cancer or heart disease. It's so much to take on yourself. And it's not really our job to know all the symptoms of everything that might happen to us. I think our job is to just be transparent and let the healthcare provider know that something's changing. And it's their job to know what those warning signs might be. In my own case, my symptoms all seem to be breathing related. And I had no idea that breathing related symptoms could signal a heart problem. And I wasn't really expected to know that, but I should have been sharing that. And so, in my experience, a lot of people will look at me and say, you look so good. And that's true. But you can also, underneath that, have a lot of symptoms that other people may not experience on an everyday basis. And I would say, even though even today I may look good, but last month I was evaluated for being put on the heart transplant at Cleveland Clinic. So a lot of times there's things that are going on underneath the surface for us and for people that we love that we just need to be able to know what's changing with them.
How do you check in with yourself, I guess, on a day-to-day basis when you're trying to be aware of your own symptoms? Do you take notes, or is it kind of a direct message to your doctor whenever you start feeling something? How does that look like for you?
I do take notes, but I check in with my doctor. And honestly, my husband and my daughter are probably two of the people that notice changes in me first. And so I listen to what they say. If they say, you seem tired, or this hill seems harder for you than it did last week, then I start listening to that. Um, Something happened in February this year. I had a stroke, and I didn't know. I mean, I knew the symptoms of a stroke, but I was too close to it to know that it was happening to me. And
Wow.
so my husband came home and knew immediately that I'd had a stroke and called 911. And I was arguing with him that I didn't have a stroke. That's how bad it was, because sometimes I think we're too close to the problem and we don't see it. And so we have to listen to those people that know us the best.
Wow. Wow. I'm so glad that you're here having this conversation with us today and that you've been able to recover well. That's definitely also a scary experience. I feel like your emotional strength is quite, oh man, I'm searching for the word. You have a lot of emotional strength, and it takes a lot to be vulnerable and speak about that as well. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And I guess, oh, please go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I think that those two things, listening to your body and describing even things you think are so simple or so insignificant, like I'm not, I feel like I'm out of shape or whatever. Tell your doctor that. But also, it's just as important to listen to those people that are around you every day and see you.
Certainly. And like you spoke about earlier, sharing your awareness and the knowledge that you gain, whether it be through this campaign or Women Heart or other sources, why it's also just so important to share what you know, because you've spoken with your husband and your daughters about these things, they also know what to look out for, I imagine. It speaks to your awareness, that how you've been sharing awareness as well.
Yes.
And so, what message would you want women watching today to walk away with? What are some key points?
Well, the two things that I just said before were to share fully and completely with your doctor. And I think when I say that, it kind of seems like, well, of course, but I was going to my doctor's appointments and he was saying, "Are you walking? Are you lifting weights?" And I'd be like, "Yeah," thinking in my mind, "I'll start doing that tomorrow." And I really wasn't. And so if I'd shared with him, "Yeah, I'm walking, but I have a really hard time going up the stairs," he might have noticed something earlier. So that's huge. And then my husband and my children, they noticed something years before I had the flu and was diagnosed, and they said, "Mom, something's not right." And we would be on vacation and trying to climb a mountain or take a hike, and it was just known that I couldn't do it. And they knew that something wasn't right, and I should have gone to the doctor a lot of years before that, because I think with most any disease or any problem that you have healthcare wise, the sooner you can diagnose it and treat it, the better outcome you're going to have.
Certainly. Man, such important messages. Thank you so much, Lorianne, for sharing your story, your heart, and just your encouragement for women walking through their health journeys. Really, to our audience, if you've ever felt like your concerns weren't taken seriously, or you've walked away from a doctor's visits with more questions than answers, this is really just your message that you're not alone. That's why we're here. WomenHeart's Treat Me Right campaign is all about giving you the tools and the confidence and really the community to speak up and get the care that you deserve. And we'll be back more with some more stories and helpful info. Until then, please keep showing up for your heart and join us in making sure every woman gets treated right. And we just thank you so much, Lorianne, for again coming on and sharing your story with us. It's really been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.